It is essential to be up to date on happenings around you, and to make that easy for you, ladies and gentlemen, we present Freshlight, where we bring fresh newspaper headlines to the limelight. Mondays to Saturdays, 8:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Al-IyamoyeTv and radio. Watch, like, subscribe, and make sure your notification is activated on our YouTube channel. You can also like and comment on our pages on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Al-IyamoyeTv and radio.
It's another beautiful day, the 31st day in the month of May 2023, of course the last day in the month of May. Welcome to another fresh episode of Freshlight on Al-IyamoyeTv and radio. We are set and ready, always committed to definitely keep you abreast of happenings, to peruse pages of different newspapers, and of course to go through prominent headlines we have in our different newspapers we've brought to the studio this morning. So welcome, good morning to you, and of course while you're preparing to go to work or you're already at work, just make sure you take all things easy, and you know, with the fuel scarcity and subsidy removal, controversy and confusion, let's just take it easy, especially our oil marketers. All right, welcome to Freshlight once again. My name is MODUPE AKINYOSOYE, and with me in the studio I have the Punch newspaper, I have the Nation newspaper, the This Day newspaper, I also have the Daily Trust newspaper and the Vanguard newspaper, definitely to keep you abreast while you're preparing or while you're already at work. All right, we pick up the Nation newspaper this morning. Let's see trending headlines on the front page of the Nation newspaper. From the front page of the Nation newspaper, we have stock markets gains 1.5 trillion naira on Tinubu's policy direction. Of course, you get the details of that in the Nation newspaper. Away from that, the Nation newspaper took us to Osun State with a Metro headline right here, revealing OAU student Adedoyin, two others get death sentence. Away from that, we also have from the front page, federal government owing NNPCL 2.8 trillion naira, says Kyari. You get the details of that on page 11 in the Nation newspaper. Away from that, we also have from the front page, Zenith Bank is Africa's best in corporate governance finance. You get that on page 7 in the Nation newspaper. Away from that, you also have Shetima Sule and editors, others mourn Dokwesi. You get that on page 2 in the Nation newspaper. Away from that, you have PDP Labour Party open case before tribunal. You also get the details of that. Away from that, from the front page, we have petrol crisis trails president fuel subsidy is gone pronouncement. You also get the details of that in the Nation newspaper. Acting Immigration CG direct prompt issuance of passport. The details of that also in the Nation newspaper. And going through the Nation newspaper to see a couple of news from the Nation. We have start from this business story. Stock market gains 1.5 trillion naira on Tinubu policy direction. The Nigerian stock market yesterday gave a rousing welcome to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's policy direction. Intense bargain hunting. The Naira also recorded a marginal gain in response to the presidential policy enunciation. The benchmark index for the Nigerian stock market, the All Share Index, ASI, posted an average return of 5.23% in its highest gain since November 12, 2020. And the gain by ASI, right here, the gain by ASI, a value-based index that tracks all quoted shares at the Nigerian exchange, NGX, was equivalent to 1.51 trillion naira. The rally on the first trading day after Tinubu's Monday inauguration day address pushed the average year-to-date return for Nigeria equities to 8.77%, putting Nigeria back on the world chart of top stock market returns. You get the details of that from the Nation newspaper. The business pages. Stock market gains to 1.5 trillion naira on Tinubu's policy direction. Away from that very story, also have from the Nation newspaper, petrol crisis trails president fuel subsidies gone pronouncement. With a couple of riders, marketers short fueling stations, loading of product stops at depots. Shettima says why payments must end now. Fuel scarcity yesterday hit the country following the decision of marketers to shut down fueling stations after President Bola Tinubu's pronouncement that fuel subsidy is gone. Lengthy queues resurfaced and commuters resorted to panic buying fueling stations in major cities across the state. But Vice President Kashim Shettima reiterated the president's position yesterday after resuming office. House of Representatives members and the organized private sector (OPS) backed petrol subsidy removal, saying it was long overdue. President fuels petrol crisis trails president fuel subsidy is gone pronouncement. The Nation newspaper captures that very story. Also from the Nation, we'll see PDP Labour Party open case tribunal. The proceedings before a United States court in which President Bola Tinubu allegedly forfeited $460,000 was in a civil case. A lawyer and first petitioners witnessed in the petition by Labour Party and its candidate, Peter B. Lawrence Onwakaiti, yesterday told the Presidential Election Petition Court. And testifying before the court, Onwakaiti said he did not see or have any copy of any charge filed against Tinubu in respect of the case. Onwakaiti, through whom the petitioner tendered documents in relation to the said U.S. court proceedings, which were admitted in evidence and marked as Exhibit PA5, said the documents were not registered in Nigeria. And when being cross-examined by Wole Olanipekun, senior advocate of Nigeria, lawyer to Tinubu and Vice President Kashim Shettima, the witness said the documents were not accompanied with a certificate from either the Nigerian consular in the U.S. or U.S. consular in Nigeria. PDP and Labour Party open case before tribunal. That story been graced by the Nation newspaper. And also from the Nation, we have agencies OPS, Moman, Dapman back petrol subsidy. And of course, the story revealing that members of the organized private sector, OPS, yesterday backed petrol subsidy removal, saying it was long overdue. Some OPS members, including the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria (MAN) and the Nigerian Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture, NASIMA, believe President Bola Tinubu got it right. A MAN Director General Segun Ajayi Kaduru said if fuel subsidy removal is long overdue, it has become unsustainable. He added that money saved from subsidy payments should be redirected to the provision of infrastructure, for instance. OPS, Moman, Dapman, back petrol subsidy. The rest of that in the Nation newspaper. Also from the Nation newspaper, we have a statement credited to the Central Bank of Nigeria. States perform below average in financial management. The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has said states performed below global average in financial management and governance quality and borrowings. The CBN added that legal and institutional framework, audit functions, coordination with fiscal policy, and record keeping of debt by state governments have exposed the level of deficiencies among the states in their ability to manage their debt. CBN Director Monetary Policy, Dr. Mahmoud Azan, made this known in Abuja yesterday at the opening of World Bank and West African Institute for Financial and Economic Management Sub-National Debt Management Performance Assessment Methodology Training. From the CBN, states perform below average in financial management. The Nation newspaper captures that story. Also, from the Nation, we have a story. Tinubu will deliver on his mandate. Ashiwaju Interest Group nationwide, AIG, has appealed to Nigerians to support the administration of President Ahmed Tinubu. AIG, during the briefing at Tolani House, Oshodi, Lagos, said Tinubu would surpass expectations of Nigerians. Convener And National Coordinator Kalejaye Banjoko expressed confidence in the political prowess and experience of Tinubu for a total transformation and renewed hope for the people in the next few years. Tinubu will deliver on his mandate, the Nation newspaper captures. Away from the Nation, let's see what the Daily Trust has for us this morning. And of course, the Daily Trust, the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper, you see on subsidy removal, of course, petrol price is 700 naira per litre as federal government says no going back. You get the details of that on page 4 in the Daily Trust, of course, with a couple of riders. Away from that, we have Sokoto governor sacks 14 monarchs, nullifies appointments of 23 permanent secretaries and others. You also get that from the Daily Trust. NGX market value is 3 trillion naira in single trading amid subsidy removal. Also from the front page, Daura hosts special Doba to welcome Buhari. You also get the details of that from the Daily Trust. The Senate President Nigeria needs. Okay, that featured headline also in the front page or on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper. And quickly flipping through the pages of the Daily Trust newspaper, we have don't remove fuel subsidy now. TUC tells wants Tinubu. The Trade Union Congress TUC has asked President Bola Tinubu to erase the thought that it would unilaterally remove fuel subsidy. The Congress said its members were horrified with Tinubu's inaugural address on Monday when he declared that subsidy on premium motor spirit, PMS popularly known as petrol, is gone. At a press briefing in Abuja on Tuesday, President and General Secretary of TUC, Festus Osifo and Nuhu Toro said they expect the President to be wise with the issue at hand. Osifo, who read the text of a briefing to journalists, described the subsidy removal as a delicate issue, hence the reason the former President, Muhammadu Buhari, passed the buck to the new administration. Don't remove fuel subsidy now. TUC wants Tinubu. The details in the Daily Trust newspaper. Away from that, still on subsidy removal from the Daily Trust newspaper. Petrol price is 700 naira per litre as federal government says no going back. 48 hours after the pronouncement by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu that the fuel subsidy is gone, queues across the country have resurfaced even as many fueling stations are under lock and key. This is just as the price of petrol per litre ballooned to over 700 naira in some parts of the country as black marketers take over the market. Tinubu had on Monday affirmed the decision of the immediate past administration to remove fuel subsidy, saying, and I quote, "We commend the decision of the outgoing administration in phasing out the petrol subsidy regime, which has increasingly favored the rich more than the poor." And the statement, end of quote. And the statement, however, triggered instantaneous scarcity across the country, with many fueling stations shutting down their premises to motorists. On subsidy removal, petrol price is 700 naira per litre as federal government says no going back. Away from that, we have an order by the new president, President Tinubu. And of course, Tinubu orders DSS to vacate EFCC office. President Bola Tinubu has asked the Department of State Service, DSS, to vacate the office of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission in Ikoyi, Lagos immediately. A Daily Trust had reported how the DSS laid siege to the office of the anti-graft agency on Tuesday morning. The EFCC officials were reportedly prevented from accessing their office, and later operatives of the secret police moved in 2 armored personnel carriers to block the main entrance of the building. It was learnt that the feud arose from a rivalry between both agencies over the ownership of the building. Spokesman of the anti-graft agency, Wilson Wajoren, when contacted, described the development as strange, explaining that the two agencies had lived together within the facility for over 20 years without any rancor. But in a swift reaction, the spokesman of DSS, Peter Afanaya, told the correspondent that a property in question belonged to the service, and as such, it is not correct to say its operatives barricaded EFCC office. The rest of that you get in the Daily Trust newspaper with the headline, Tinubu orders DSS to vacate EFCC office. Away from that, we also have still on the fuel scarcity, a reaction from Nigerians. Nigerians lament hardship as Tinubu marks first day in office. Less than 24 hours after President Bola Tinubu assumed office, many Nigerians have been groaning over the current fuel crisis resulting to queues at fueling station. In his inaugural speech, the president had announced that fuel subsidy is gone. And shortly after President Tinubu announced the removal of subsidy on petrol, otherwise known as fuel, queues returned in major petrol stations across the country, especially in Lagos and Abuja. And the situation grew worse on Tuesday as pump price of petrol rose astronomically. From Daily Trust on fuel scarcity, Nigerians lament hardship as Tinubu marks first day in office. Away from that, we also have a story or report from Daily Trust revealing that PCC calls for review of Federal Character Commission Act. The Public Complaints Commission, PCC, has called for a review of the Federal Character Commission Act to end lopsided employment in federal agencies. The Chief Commissioner of PCC, Abimbola Ayo-Yusuf, made the call in Abuja at a public hearing on the complaints of non-compliance to appointment into the Federal Civil Service. He said the principle of federal character had been subjected to persistent abuse. From the Daily Trust, PCC calls for review of Federal Character Commission Act. The rest of that in the Daily Trust. Away from that, we also have representatives okays 373 million naira for NASA Library Trust Fund. The House of Representatives on Tuesday approved that a 255 million naira appropriated for the National Assembly e-Library in the Appropriation Act 2022-2023 be wired to the recurrent account of the National Assembly Library Trust Fund as part of its initial takeoff grant. It also resolved that the sum of 118 million naira appropriated for the National Assembly dashboards in the federal government's budget be wired to the recurrent account of the fund. And this followed the adoption of a motion by the chairman of the House Committee on National Assembly Library, Jonathan Gaza. Gaza had said the money had been appropriated in the 2022-2023 Appropriation Act to the National Assembly Trust Fund as takeoff grant. Representatives okays 373 million naira for NASA Library Trust Fund. The Daily Trust newspaper captures that very story. Away from the Daily Trust newspaper, let's see another newspaper this morning, and we'll be picking the This Day newspaper. From the front page of the This Day newspaper, you see investors react positively as Tinubu meets Emefiele Kyari Labour over petrol subsidy with multiple riders right there. And you get the details on page 5, the story on page 5 in the This Day newspaper. Away from that, President directs DSS to vacate EFCC's office immediately. You also get the details of that very story on page 8 in the This Day newspaper. Zenith maintains position as best corporate governance financial services in Africa in 4th consecutive year. In that report, you also get the details of that in the This Day newspaper. Away from that, we have a Miloko Presidential Guard of Honor welcomes Tinubu to his office. On the 10th Assembly, Northern Alliance alleges undemocratic moves to stop Betara Yari and others. You get that on page 40 in the This Day newspaper. Away from that, let's see, going through the couple of stories from the This Day newspaper. The first story right here reviews the investors react positively as Tinubu meets Emefiele Kyari and Labour over petrol subsidy with riders. Stock market gains 1.51 trillion naira and naira appreciate as Eurobonds rally with other several riders right there. And the story revealing that investors in both the equities and money market yesterday responded positively to the pronouncement by President Bola Tinubu in his inaugural speech. Specifically, the stock market appreciated as investors gained 1.51 trillion naira, apparently in response to Bola Tinubu's signaling of plans to unify foreign exchange rate. Also, the naira appreciated on the parallel market as it gained 5 naira to close at 765 naira per dollar yesterday, up from the 770 naira a dollar it traded the previous day. However, Tinubu, the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, and the group chief executive officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPC, Mele Kyari, yesterday met to strategize on how to engage members of the Nigeria Labour Congress, NLC, and the Trade Union Congress, TUC, to resolve the looming agitation against the phasing out of a petrol subsidy regime, which was among the pronouncements by the president on Monday, reliable Villa sources told the This Day newspaper. Investors react positively to as Tinubu meets Emefiele, Kyari and Labour over petrol subsidy. The This Day newspaper has that very story. And away from that, the This Day newspaper had us with a quick trip to Osun State. On OAU student murder, Osun court sentences hotel owner Adedoyin and 2 staff members to death by hanging. The Osun State High Court on Tuesday sentenced the founder of Hilton Hotel, Ile-Ife, Mr. Rahman Adedoyin, to death by hanging over the murder of Timothy Adegoke, student of Obafemi Awolowo University, OAU, Ile-Ife. Justice Adepele Ojo, while delivering its judgment on the case, equally sentenced 2 members of staff of the hotel, Adeniyi Aderogba and Kazim Oyetunde, to death by hanging. The court discharged and acquitted 3 other members of staff, while the 7th defendant will hear a sentencing on Wednesday following pleas by both the prosecution and defendant counsel. Adedoyin was charged along with 6 of his workers, Magaline Shiefuna, Adeniyi Aderogba, Oluwole Lawrence, Oyetunde Kazim, Adebayo Kunle and Adedeji Adeshola as 1st to 7th defendants, and were arraigned on an 18-count charge, which include murder, conspiracy, oath of secrecy, among others. On the OAU student murder, Osun Court sentences hotel owner Adedoyin and 2 staff members to death by hanging. Away from that, we also have the governor's warning on the fuel marketers, right here revealing that governors warn fuel marketers against hoarding and price hike, with a rider deploys special monitoring teams. Kwara State Governor and Chairman of the Nigeria Governors Forum, Abdurrahman Abdurrazak, Bayelsa State Governor Senator Diri and Osun State Governor Senator Ademola Adeleke have cautioned oil marketers to avoid imposing needless hardship on the citizens through creation of artificial fuel scarcity in states across the country. And similarly, Governor Gordon Obaseki of Edo State and Governor Biodun Oyebanji of Ekiti State have threatened to clamp down oil marketers hoarding petrol in their respective states to create artificial scarcity and price hike. The governors gave the warning in separate statements yesterday, and the oil marketers had resorted to ordered and hiked prices. Immediately, President Bola Tinubu announced in his inaugural speech that fuel subsidy was over. Abdulrazak said he was seriously concerned about reports of sudden fuel scarcity in different parts of the state, stressing that it was totally uncalled for. Governors warn fuel marketers against hoarding and price hike. The This Day newspaper captures that story. Let's see, away from the This Day newspaper, the Vanguard newspaper. Let's peruse the Vanguard newspaper and give you details of some of the stories from the Vanguard newspaper. And of course, this one is revealing petrol subsidy removal not immediate, says presidency source. The removal of petrol subsidy will no longer be immediate, Vanguard gathered authoritatively last night. Recall that President Bola Tinubu had said in his inaugural speech on Monday that the subsidy was gone as it was not provided for in the 2023 budget. But sources told Vanguard yesterday that implementation of the removal of subsidy would commence post-June. The need to clarify issues, sources told Vanguard, informed the meeting the president had with the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, and the group chief executive officer of Nigeria National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, Mr. Mele Kyari, in the presidential Villa Abuja yesterday. And it was learned that the essence of the meeting was to engage labor anytime from today to ensure the seamless removal of the subsidy. And the source said one of the fallouts of the meeting was for NNPCL to set up a template that would ensure that no toxic fuel was imported into the country and also create a benchmark for price. From the presidency source revealing petrol subsidy removal not immediate, the Vanguard newspaper captured and emphasized that very story. Away from that, we also have a statement from the CSO. CSOs task Tinubu to strengthen EFCC. A coalition of civil society organizations, CSOs, yesterday urged President Bola Tinubu to be cautious of individuals attempting to discredit the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. The group explained that the EFCC under Abdul Rashid Bawa has recorded significant achievement. In a statement titled Anti-Corruption Paths to Growth in Leaps Without Rebound, they advised that Bawa should be retained. CSO's task Tinubu to strengthen EFCC from the Vanguard newspaper. And quickly, a statement credited to Fashoranti to Tinubu, no excuse for failure. Former leader of the Pan-Yoruba Socio-Political Organization, Afenifere Ruben Fashoranti, yesterday warned President Bola Tinubu that Nigerians would not take any excuse for failure. Fashoranti, in a congratulatory message to the president on his inauguration, said, and I quote, "The world knows that you are prepared for the job and therefore there should be no excuse for failure." End of quote. Fashoranti to Tinubu, no excuse for failure. The Vanguard newspaper captures the story. Quickly, let's go through the Punch newspaper to see the cover page. And of course, see the prominent headline on the front page of the Punch newspaper. We have on subsidy as well. Fuel sells 600 naira per litre. Queues worsen as fueling stations short, with several riders. But page 2 captures the details of the story. Away from that, we have Tinubu inherit over 16 trillion naira uncompleted project. You get the details of that from page 26 in the Punch newspaper. 11 trillion naira spent on moribund refineries in 13 years, says representatives. You also get the details of that on page 30 in the Punch newspaper. On ASU, court okays no work, no pay policy. You get the details and an update on the report from page 16 in the Punch newspaper. Away from that, we also have from the front page, National Assembly anti-zoning group condemns alleged plan to arrest Betara and Yari. Page 7 captures the story. Punch newspaper also revealing this from the front page. OAE students, Adedoyin and workers bag death sentence. Hotel forfeited. Page 7 captures the Metro story. Also from the front page, you see Oyo police storm auxiliaries hideout, arrest 78 with arms. Page 4 and page 5 captures that very story. Quickly going through a couple of stories from the Punch newspaper. All right, we start with the fuel subsidy as well. Fuel sells 600 naira per litre. Queues worsen at fueling stations short less than 24 hours after President Bola Tinubu declared an end to fuel subsidy. The pump price of premium motor spirits, commonly known as petrol, has skyrocketed to 600 naira per litre from 195 naira per litre in many parts of the country. The developments equally triggered 100% hike in transport fares, while long queues resurfaced at fueling stations across Lagos, Abuja, Ilorin, Benin, Asaba, Port Harcourt, Kano, Makurdi, and other major cities and urban areas. To worsen the situation, many outlets shut down their facilities and refused to dispense fuel to motorists, further creating scarcity and sparking desperation and panic buying at the fuel stations that were open to customers. The rest of that in the Punch newspaper also emphasizing on the subsidy. Fuel sells 600 naira per litre. Queues worsen as fueling stations short. Away from that, we have this very story from the Punch revealing that Wike no longer in PDP, says NEC member. A member of the People's Democratic Party's National Executive Committee, Timothy Osadolo, says the immediate past governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, is no longer a member of the party, given his conduct before, during, and after the 2023 general elections. Osadolo, who gave the hint in a telephone conversation with the Punch on Tuesday, noted that the leadership of the party had decided to isolate Wike and render him inconsequential in the affairs of the People's Democratic Party. Wike no longer in PDP, says NEC member. The rest of that in the Punch newspaper. And quickly from the business pages of the Punch, we have 11 trillion naira spent on moribund refineries in 13 years, says representatives. The House of Representatives, ADO Committee, and the Senate of Refineries in the country has said the federal government spent a total sum of 11 trillion naira, 349 billion naira, 583 million naira, 186, 313.40 from 2010 to date. The chairman of the committee, Ganiyu Johnson, however, failed to convince the deputy speaker, Ahmed Wased, who chaired the committee of the whole, to consider the report. Wased dismissed the recommendations by the committee as failing to address the main issues for which the panel was set up, as well as not being far-reaching enough to change the current situation of things. In the report, a copy of which a correspondent obtained, the committee gave a breakdown of the actual cost of rehabilitating the Nigerian refineries between 2010 and 2020 and from 2020 to date. From the Punch newspaper, the business page, 11 trillion naira spent on moribund refineries in 13 years, says representatives. Away from that business story, we have a story from the Metro page. And NDLEA seizes cannabis and codeine in Ogun drug joint raid. Operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, Ogun State Command, have seized 222.42 kilogram of cannabis, popularly known as marijuana, at various drug joints in the state. The operatives also seized 40 bottles of codeine weighing a total of 0.4 liters after invading a drug joint in Abeokuta, the state capital. The command's commander of narcotic, Ibiba Odili, disclosed this in a statement on Tuesday. Odili said the operatives stormed various drug joints such as Lafenwa, Oduere, Obantuko, and Randa, all in Abeokuta, and uncovered the drugs. She added that the operatives recovered a locally made gun from one of the joint. From the Metro page of the Punch newspaper, NDLEA seizes cannabis, codeine in Ogun drug joint raid. Away from that, let's quickly see the sports page of the Punch newspaper, revealing that Ajegunle boy crowned football king in Saudi. Anthony Leblem chronicles Odion Igalo's childhood from a Lagos ghetto after the striker recently added the Saudi Kings Cup gold medal to his silverware. Who would have thought that a kid born and raised in Lagos ghetto, Ajegunle, would one day become one of Africa's biggest footballers globally? Well, that case of Odion Igalo, one of the Nigeria's most successful footballers of the last decade. The striker currently features for Saudi Arabian giants and Asia's most decorated club, Al-Hilal, after a career in Europe that saw him playing top-flight football for clubs in Norway, Italy, Spain, and England, as well as China. And for the 33-year-old, it's been a tortuous journey to the pinnacle of global football, a grass-to-grace story to cheer determination, hard work, and desire to succeed, which has earned him his latest trophy, the King's Cup, in the oil-rich Saudi Arabia. From the Punch newspaper, Ajegunle boy crowned football king in Saudi Arabia. Of course, that will be all. We have withdrawn the curtain this morning on Freshlight on Al-IyamoyeTv and radio. Do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow, like, comment, and of course, on all our social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Al-IyamoyeTV and radio. Thank you so much for joining us on Freshlight this morning on Al-IyamoyeTV and radio. I remain MODUPE, AKINYOSOYE. Not too early to say Happy New Month in advance. Have a beautiful day. Good morning.